Good evening, everyone. It's so good to be with you tonight. I've missed you all with the orchestra. We're broadcasting from my media room. I just had it built to have all of you with us. So we're going to go through the orchestra and the four sections. I'm going to play you some music. Some of it you may know, some of you may not. It's great music. I'll play you a couple of minutes of each selection. I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Well, everyone, that was Smetana's Dance of the Comedians. It's such a great piece. If you don't know it, listen to the whole thing. It's just fantastic piece by Bedřich Smetana. So tonight we're going to talk about Orchestra 101, and we're going to talk about some of the traditions of the orchestra. Tradition. Tradition. By the way, that anvil that he was hitting is actually a percussion instrument. We'll talk more about that in a bit. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about tuning the orchestra, because we come to the concert, the lights go down, the concert master appears. This is Alyssa Park, our beloved concert master, our first violin player. She enters and bows, and then she turns it over to the oboe, who plays a concert A, and then the woodwinds tune up. And then the oboe comes back and plays a concert A, and then the brass tunes up. And then the oboe comes back and plays a concert A, and then the strings tune up. And then the concert begins. Here is the tuning. That is just such a lovely part of the orchestra experience, the tuning that is really a call to everyone to get settled and ready for the concert. So tonight we're going to talk about the four sections of the orchestra, and first is the strings. They are the backbone of the orchestra. There's the first violin now and the second violin. So they take the violins and they divide them in roughly half, and they write different lines, different parts for each of the violins. So in a way, there are 5 sections in the strings, 2 for the violins. And then the viola, a little larger violin, warmer and lower in sound. Then, of course, the cello, the only instrument that sits down the whole time, even if we're playing the Star Spangled Banner. And then, of course, the double bass, the largest of all the stringed instruments. So it's interesting that we just talked about the oboe tuning the orchestra to an A. Every one of those stringed instruments, one of their strings is an A string. So many people don't know that. So it's kind of an interesting trivial fact. Let me play you a selection where all the strings play. Now, that was a beautiful string sonata by Rossini. And we are so fortunate now to have a cellist from the orchestra here, Robin Snyder. Now, I was doing research on Robin. I'm going to switch to her in a moment. I was doing research on Robin, and I found that she was a Powerpuff Girl. Robin, did you know that?
These are things I have not heard.
Okay, well, there you are. Well, Robin, so Robin plays the cello. Robin, I gotta confess that when I was in elementary school, I played the cello, but I was really small, and the cello was actually taller than I was. And my friends, they weren't really friends, I would get teased relentlessly. So I'm curious, how did you pick the cello, or did it pick you, or what happened, Robin?
So Jim knows this. I grew up with a father who was a professional cellist, Peter Snyder. He played in the LA Philharmonic. And I was a very practical kid. I loved music from, I don't even know, my parents say I was whistling in the crib. So I always loved it. And my grandmother was a pianist, and I started out with the piano, loved the piano. And then the big epiphany for me was getting asked by my music teacher at school to play along with the school orchestra. And it was that moment where I decided I had to play something else. And then consequently went to a concert to hear Lynn Harrell perform the Dvorak Cello Concerto. And that was it. I just thought, I gotta play the cello. And Dad plays it, so, you know, might as well.
I love the cello, and I heard a rumor that you know a little bit of the Dvorak. Could you just play a few bars for us? It would just be such a delight.
Sure.
Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. Could we add that to our next season's concert and let you play it?
Sure. Well,
okay, good. I'll send
it to our principal first.
Well, but you're here tonight, and I'll send the contract over right away. So I wanted to play for you a piece which accentuates the winds. This is by Felix Mendelssohn, and it's called The Overture for Winds. was just a tremendous piece. Again, if you've never heard it before, I would highly recommend it. It's called Mendelssohn Overture for Winds by Felix Mendelssohn. Now, we are so fortunate to have a very special member of the wind section. Nancy Matheson plays clarinet. Hi, how are you, Nancy?
I'm very well, thank you, David. Nice to see you this evening.
Oh, so happy to see you. Can you just give us, too, a little background how you fell in love with the clarinet?
Well, yes. When I was a child, my father played trumpet in the Sierra Madre concert band. And so my mother and my sister and I would go every Friday night or Saturday night and sit in the park and listen to them play. And to me, it just looked like a whole lot more fun to be on the other side of the footlights, playing up on stage. And the first instrument that you usually see in a concert band, the front row, is a flute. So at first I wanted to play the flute. And the more concerts we went to, I started looking further back in the band, and I noticed this clarinet instrument that had all these fun buttons to push. And I thought, oh, that's what I want to play. I had no idea that my parents heard me and took it seriously. The next thing I knew, in 4th grade, they had brought a clarinet home for me and had gotten private lessons. And the rest was history.
So Nancy, I don't want this to seem like I've played all these instruments, but I did play clarinet in high school, and I learned that if I didn't practice a lot, the muscles in my cheeks, in my embouchure, would get weaker. So do you have to practice a lot? Because you're a professional, you know everything, Nancy. How often do you have to practice?
Well, I play every day, and you're absolutely right. These muscles, it's like almost like we have to do push-ups every day, but for the muscles in our face to keep them strong so that we can support the sound. I do practice every day.
Okay, that's great. And now, Nancy, I hate to put you on the spot, Nancy, but the most famous solo in all of classical music, I think, is the beginning of Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin. And have you ever played that solo before, Nancy?
I have.
Would you entertain us with a little bit of that tonight?
Well, let me see if my clarinet remembers how to play it.
That's great. Thank you. Oh, that was beautiful. A couple of seasons ago, we played that. We played Rhapsody in Blue. I think we need to do it again and have you stand in front of the audience playing it. That would be my recommendation. That was beautiful. That was so beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, now, are the winds the best section of the orchestra? Do you want to speak out for the winds here?
Absolutely. The woodwind section is the heart of the orchestra. That's why we're seated in the center of the orchestra, so that everybody can hear us. And so everybody can key into us. If something were to happen to the conductor, I think the woodwind section would do a really good job of holding things together.
I love that. All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you so much. All right, everyone, we're gonna move on to talk about the brass section. And I call them the bombastics of the orchestra. Now, you English majors out there are gonna tell me that bombastic is an adjective, not a noun. But I have changed English for tonight to say that they are the bombastics. They are the loudest, most, you hear them voice their opinions all the time, and they are a very special group. They're the trumpet and the French horn, sometimes just called the horn. And there's the trombone. The trombone is exciting because they can hurt other people if they put their slide. They can annihilate the rest of the orchestra. You have to be careful around the bone players. And of course the tuba. Now, a question about the brass is, how do they make sounds in their instruments? How do they make sounds? And the answer is they buzz with their lips. They do a buzz. A now, I've never played a brass instrument, as is probably apparent, but my son plays the euphonium, and he tells me it's the buzzing sound. So I thought, because of the buzzing sound, I would play a selection of brass from Flight of the Bumblebee by Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov. This is an incredible piece of brass music. Now, I've got it arranged for a brass quintet. Tell me what you think of this. Ah, yes, the Flight of the Bumblebee. We love that piece. All right, so we are so lucky today to have with us Jim Thatcher, who is a horn player. Jim, I did some research on you, and I think that you are the horn player that has been heard most in the history of all horn players, because you played a lot with John Williams. How did you meet John Williams?
Well, I started in the studios with a very great teacher. His name was Vincent DeRosa, and the reason I got into the studios was because this man played horn like nothing I'd ever heard before. And I studied with him, we became good friends, and he introduced me into the industry. And as time went on, I got to know a lot of composers, and John was one of them. And I started to do pictures with him. And eventually he started to use me as his principal horn player, and I did that for the next 30 years.
How did you pick the French horn? What drew you to it?
Well, it really looks cool. I mean, look at these valves, you know, they just kind of mold into the instrument. But I had an uncle who was a professional horn player in Mexico City. And when I was 16, my parents were worried that I had a girlfriend I was getting too close to, so they sent me down there. And so I spent the summer with my uncle studying the horn, playing with the orchestra, and that formed the rest of my life. That was it for me. That's what I wanted to do, was to make music as a professional and do it through the French horn.
One of my favorite solos of the French horn comes in towards the beginning of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. After the da-da-da-da, finally the French horn comes in to announce the second section. Could you play a little of that for us?
Well, let's give it a shot.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that. I love that. So Jim, what is your feeling about the brass section and the fact that they're trying to take over the orchestra all the time? Is that true?
Well, we can do so many things. We can play softly and meld in with the woodwinds. We can play with the strings. I especially love playing with the cellos because so much of the vibration in the cello actually goes backwards because that cello has that great amount of wood next to the player. And so that transmits itself back into the orchestra, and I really enjoy playing solos along with them. For example, Ein Heldenleben by Strauss is a horn solo, but not really. It's with the cello section. It's just a lot of fun.
The interesting thing about the French horn is it often will join the other instruments in a quintet, for example. A string quintet, sometimes the horn will play. A wind quintet, the horn will play. You're just very popular, Jim.
Well, Robert Schumann called the French horn the glue of the orchestra. And I think it was because the horn could play with so many different groups. And also the omnipresent sound of the horn, done correctly, can kind of filter its way through the orchestra and fill in the gaps, as it were, and create a extra magic to the orchestra because of its characteristic that way.
So do you think you should tune the orchestra, Jim? Do you think the French horn, come on, Jim, stand up and tune the orchestra?
Have you ever looked at what the oboe player does when he or she is not tuning and not playing?
Yeah, what do they do, Jim?
They have a knife and they're working on their reeds. I'm not going to compete with somebody with a knife and try to compete with them. They can tune the orchestra all they want.
Jim, I so appreciate you being on the cutting edge of things. All right, we have one more. We have one more group that we have yet to hear from, and that is the percussion section. I call them the "we got the beat" of the orchestra. So the percussion section, in a way, is the largest section in terms of variety of instruments. There's the timpani, there are the cymbals, the wood blocks. Look at all these instruments. We have the bass drum, the snare drum, the congas, the bongos. And then look at all the tambourine, the maracas, the castanets. It's unbelievable. Now we have a question from the audience. What kind of instrument is the piano? And actually, the piano is a percussion instrument, because when you're playing the piano, you hit keys, and the key hits a hammer, and the hammer hits the strings of the piano. So some people say it's a string instrument because of the strings. I can concur with that, but it's also a percussive instrument. In fact, the great American pop star Billy Joel talks a lot about the piano being percussive, and he uses it to pound on the piano all the time. So I have a very special piece that was written for percussion by Mitchell Peters. And I listened to a lot of different pieces, and I love this one the most. So I'm going to play a little of it for you. I hope you enjoy it. This is a piece for percussion by Mitchell Peters. I love that piece. Well, we are so lucky today to have Scott Higgins from the percussion section. There you are. Scott, how are you this evening?
I'm fine.
Thank you so much for joining us. And look at all that percussion behind you, Scott.
I know.
Do you have to rent a big van and bring that to the orchestra every time you play?
No, this is just instruments I keep at home to practice and teach on. So I have a complete other set and about 3 times as much in this big warehouse. And then when I have to go to work, they move all the instruments because there's no way one person could move this much stuff.
So do you get to play all the instruments? Is one harder than the other to play?
Well, mallets and timpani are harder than probably triangle or shaker. So if I was going to play shaker, that's all I really have to do for the most part. So that one's pretty easy.
Yeah, but you've got such good rhythm there, Scott.
Well,
now, Scott, you have to tune the timpani yourself?
Yes.
You don't get the oboe player to tune it for you, Scott?
No.
All right, we're going to change that someday.
Maybe. I mean, like if you had a vibraphone could tune the orchestra because it's a fixed pitch and it doesn't change. But that's about the only thing. You could use one of the mallet instruments. But other than that, yeah. Which instrument
do you like playing the best? Which of the...
I like playing snare drum a lot. I don't know why. It's just, for me, it's a really fun instrument to play. And there's a lot of good parts, like Bolero.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the Shostakovich symphonies. And the thing with Bolero, you just play the same 2 measures over and over and over,
yeah.
Except for the last 2. So it's just how to make that crescendo grow the whole time and try to keep the rhythm even as maybe other people in the orchestra try to shape things differently. So there's always a little bit of a battle going on. If people want to stretch a phrase, and then you have to like imperceptibly keep the rhythm even but go with them. Because if you don't, then you sound wrong. So it's fun. It's a challenge.
Now, sometimes a score calls for many percussion instruments. And if someone's playing the timpani, that's what they're playing. But have you ever been in a situation where you had to play something and drop it and play something else and you're running all over like a crazy man playing all these instruments? Does that ever happen?
Oh, yeah. I used to play a lot of Broadway shows, and some shows had horrendous setups. There was one, Miss Saigon. It was just a huge setup. And so is Wicked. So you're just changing instruments all the time. And there were some changes that were so fast that if I didn't have the mallets on the instrument in a certain way, I would have to turn around really fast and pick them up and play them. And if they were in the wrong place, I would miss an interest. So a lot of it, playing Broadway shows, is choreography, just where everything is set up so you can reach it.
I heard that when you played in Wicked, you were very popular.
Oh.
Actually, that's a play on a joke from a song in Wicked. Okay. Is the percussion section the best section of the orchestra?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're in the back. Everybody likes to watch us play. We're probably the most entertaining. Somebody said the 3 people the audience watch the most are the conductor, the harpist, because they always want to see when they're going to play when they pull the harp back, and the percussion section, because we're doing things that we could pick up an instrument and maybe somebody doesn't know what that instrument is, like some ethnic instrument, they've never seen it before. So it's something new and they're trying to figure out what they're seeing and what things sound like.
Were you a drummer when you were in your early days in a band? Did you ever sit in for Ringo and the Beatles? No,
I didn't play. But that's how I started. I wanted to play rock and roll. So I started out playing drum set, and when I was in high school, my life's ambition was to be Ginger Baker, who was the drummer in Cream. And then I took a class in high school, just a basic music class, and I heard some Ravel, and I heard Lemaire, and it just completely changed my life. And I thought, I want to play in an orchestra. Not having any idea what that entailed, I just thought that would be a cool thing to do. So then I went to college, and then I took lessons with Mitch Peters. So just you played that by him.
That's so cool.
Studied with Mitch, And then I started playing extra in the Philharmonic, and Mitch ended up being a great friend. He was a wonderful man. And I think I've probably played Piece for Percussion maybe 1,000 times in my life, because it's real popular for school shows. That's what he wrote it for, just to showcase the various instruments of the percussion section.
Oh, I think that is so serendipitous that I picked it out of all the ones I watched, and,
yeah, I know.
and you played it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a question for Scott from our audience here from Ray.
Good.
Ray wants to know, do you find it difficult not to drift off during Bolero, given the repetitive nature of the part? I've always wondered that. How do you make it to the end?
It takes an amazing amount of concentration, really, because it's really easy to turn the rhythm around, or sometimes other people in the orchestra will turn it around. I've had that happen on me too, where somebody is playing unison, you know, that da 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 da, and somebody else in the orchestra will space out and flip those two bars. And then so your ear just wants to go with them, but you can't, because hopefully at some point they're going to drop out and you just have to keep it steady. Wow. So it looks like it is really easy, but it's not.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. All right, everyone. I have one final thing to show you as we come to the close of our time together, because the truth is all 4 sections of the orchestra need each other. And to make the incredible sound and to play this incredible music, they all need to be together. And when they're doing it right, it's like fireworks. That, of course, was Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture. And that brings our evening to a bit of a close. I have a few more things I want to say.
Yes.
I want to thank 4 very special people. Robin Snyder Nancy Matheson, Jim Thatcher, and Scott Higgins. The real treat for me was I got to know these people who I've often seen playing in the orchestra, but I got to know them personally. And orchestra should be a community activity, and we should get to know these wonderful players. So I think it was just such a lovely opportunity for all of us to talk to them and hear from them. I also want to thank Rebecca for putting this all together. She did a great job, and in the face of all the technical challenges we faced tonight, she kept her cool the whole time and made it happen. So Rebecca, congratulations. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who attended. We miss you, and we hope to be back in the symphony very soon. And I hope to see you an hour before the symphony begins at our pre-concert lecture. So please join us at the New West Symphony. Rebecca, what else do you have to tell everyone?
I just want to thank you, David, for doing this for us today and giving us this wonderful background on each of the sections, and each of our orchestra members who gave us some real color and light to the music. We have next week, next Thursday, Battle of the Sections, the orchestra edition. And this Sunday on Father's Day at 7 p.m., we have a special Toast to Fathers hosted by Michael Christie and joined by two Oscar and Grammy winning composers, Jeff Beal and David Campbell, and they're going to be joined by a couple of their professional musician children as well. So it's going to be a nice, fun evening, 7 p.m. on Sunday, June 21st, to celebrate Father's Day. Then next Thursday, June 25th at 7 p.m. for Battle of the Orchestra Sections. Follow us on Facebook or check out our website, newwestsymphony.org, and be sure to sign up, and we'll keep you posted for our wonderful events. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We love you as part of the New West Symphony family, and we will see you soon.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks again.